If you don't have a lot of space, but you still want that holiday tree, then you might want to check this out. What's happening, Panda Nation? Peter Von Panda here. I've got Christmas decorations going up because the holidays are upon us, but I realized that I don't have as much space as I once had, and I do want to add a Christmas tree, but I want to keep it pretty small. I'm actually thinking maybe I'll put it on the shelf, maybe right by the fireplace, something like that. So I picked this up because it has two big advantages. One, it is actually very short. It's going to be shorter than me. That's already pretty short. And two, it was really inexpensive. And I guess it was actually a third, is that it kind of looked less like just a tree and more like a snow-covered tree, but without the flocking. So I know that it met my budget, but I'm hoping that it's going to meet my needs and be pleasing to the eye. So let's get this thing open and set up. All right, so got the box opened here. It's only maybe 40 inches long, 38 inches long. And what you can see in here is we have the different parts. Now, I mentioned that this might look like a snow-covered tree, but not in the traditional or higher quality sense where they take a green tree, fake green tree, and then flock it with like that white powder. That actually is not legal in some states because I think it is a carcinogen or toxic if you taste it or breathe it in, so don't do any of that. But what I liked about this is that the little plastic needles here are actually kind of like white plastic. So it doesn't do that flocking and you get the look of a snow-covered tree here. So it looks like this thing should be pretty easy to set up. You kind of just take this out. All of the branches are already assembled and attached to the base here. So you just kind of pull them down. I think they're kind of like hinged, or actually not hinged, but the metal bars are wrapped around the center here. So you're just going to kind of pull them out and shape the tree like this. So there's going to be a little manual labor. I can see I'm losing some of those needles there. Going to water the tree, you know. Here is the smaller one, so that's going to go on the top, I believe. And then we also get a metal stand right here. So this will pivot open, and then there should be a screw or something right down there that will hold this in place and then hold the bottom, that post right there, in the stand right there. So this is white too. This whole thing is going to look white like it's covered in snow. So let's finish setting this up. It's actually going to be pretty easy, I think. Just kind of these three pieces put together, and then probably the hardest part is just bending all these branches down. All right, so I got the base set up. You just kind of put those little thumb screws into the threaded holes there. I'm going to take this bigger piece here, this bottom part, and just drop it in here into the bottom. And FYI, there's this little plastic collar on the base of the post there. I don't think that's supposed to be on there, so just went ahead and pulled it off. And now that seems to fit in there pretty good. So I'm just going to tighten these down, make sure that this is braced in there nicely, and then start pulling some of these branches down. These seem to kind of fold down. They're a little easier to fold than coat hanger wire, so a little less strong than that. Two hands, this goes pretty quick. Now, I will say, I was like, oh man, this doesn't really look like that full of a tree. And then I realized that each of these has little branches that you need to fold and splay out as well. So there is kind of a little bit of detail work. You can see how these come out here just like that too. So each of these need to be kind of splayed out once you get kind of these main branches down. And then I'll put the last piece right on the top there. All right, here it is, done. There is definitely some forensic evidence that I was fooling around with this. Actually, the hardest part about it is once you get these branches down, to splay them out because they're really compressed. So you just have to kind of pry all these little branches apart. It's not hard, it's just kind of tedious because everything looks like it's the same. And, you know, there are times when there are two branches, just like that, and I didn't even realize it. So you can kind of really fill this out. There are some gaps here. I could kind of hide those by spreading these out a little bit more. Now, the second piece up here doesn't have any branches that splay, so that's actually kind of nice. They're all just kind of mounted to the center of the trunk there, and you just kind of pull those down. So that's a little easier to put together. This bottom one is just a little bit more, but that looks pretty good. I mean, it's all white. Like I said, the big thing about this is that because these little fake needles here are all white plastic, you don't have that flocking. You don't have something that is shedding dust that you might be breathing in, getting on your carpet or on your furniture, those types of things. So it has that white snow-covered look without kind of a two-step process that might just be more hassle than it's worth. So at a glance, looks like a snow-covered evergreen tree. Now, I will say this is on a table. This actually probably isn't a bad use for it because I think it's only about 4 feet tall. You know, it's probably standing about 6 feet there, but 2 feet off the ground. So it's a pretty small tree, but you could definitely put it in the middle of a table, in the corner of your room if you have an apartment or a small space. Maybe you're just looking for an additional tree to accent all of your other holiday decorations. I think this would be a good one. So like I said, it's pretty inexpensive. Obviously, it's pretty easy to set up, and everything that you need to get the tree going is included in the box. So if you want to pick up this guy, I'll put a link to it in the description below. Peter Von Panda, out.
We can discover more and explore so much deeper. We can live better than ever thanks to Peter Von Panda. Peter Von Panda.
If you don't have a lot of holidays, oh, well,